Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget-friendly, and delicious. So if you'd like some weeknight meal ideas, just keep watching. First up, I made a new recipe for French onion pork chops. I had about a half a container of French onion dip left over that I needed to use up. And my husband is not a big fan of pork chops at all. So I am on the search for a pork chop recipe that he will enjoy. So I decided to try this. This recipe is from Julia Pacheco. I'm sure you're probably already familiar with her channel, but just in case you're not, I'll have it linked in the description box below and her recipe will be there. So let me show you how I made this. I'm going to spray my casserole dish with some nonstick cooking spray. My oven is set at 350 degrees. I have this package of pork chops that I got on markdown at Target. And this recipe is super easy. It's only a few ingredients. I decided to season my pork chops just a little bit with some pepper and just a tiny bit of salt. I'm glad that I went easy on the salt because if I would have added any more, it would have been way too salty. So if you decide to season your pork chops, again, just be careful with that salt. But once I've seasoned the pork chops lightly, I'm going to add my French onion dip on top. Then I'm going to add my shredded cheddar cheese and then my fried onions, and that's it. Like I said, super easy recipe. This is going to go into the oven. Now, I believe her recipe said to cook the pork chops for 35 to 40 minutes, but my pork chops were super thin and they only took about 20-25 minutes. So I would just check your pork chops, about halfway through, check the temperature on that, and if they're ready, you can go ahead and pull them. To go with the pork chops, I'm making mashed potatoes. I have some russet potatoes that I washed, peeled, cut into chunks. I've got them in some salted water. I'm going to bring them to a boil until they're tender. To go along with that, I made myself some peas. I just had a small can, so I added a little bit of butter, salt, and pepper. And then for my husband, I had a can of these turnip greens from Walmart. I just added them to this pot, added just a tiny little bit of butter, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then just maybe a tablespoon of bacon crumbles, and I'm just going to heat those up slowly. Once the potatoes were done, I drained them really well, added them back to the pot. I added some salt, pepper, butter, milk, and just maybe a tablespoon or so of cream cheese. And then I mashed those with the potato masher. Here are the finished peas, the finished turnip greens, and then the finished pork chops. Here are the finished plates. So you have the pork chops, the mashed potatoes. I have the peas. My husband has those turnip greens, and he likes this pepper vinegar sauce to go on his greens. And this was a super easy and quick dinner, and it was really budget friendly. I recommend you all give this a try, especially if you love like the French onion flavor. For dinner the next night, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I just wanted to keep it real with you all and show you that we all have off nights. We all have nights where we just don't feel well, or we don't feel like cooking, or we're super busy. I honestly don't even remember what my husband ended up having this night for dinner. He ate later and he made himself something, but this was my dinner this night, just a simple peanut butter and jelly sandwich. For the next night, I still wasn't feeling well and I was just craving a big salad. And I hate to say this, but I just did not have the energy or the motivation to, wash all my produce, chop everything up, make a salad. I just didn't have the energy. So we ordered through DoorDash. We ordered McAlister's. I got their chef salad with honey mustard. My husband got their King Club sandwich with a side of their chicken tortilla soup. And this was our dinner this night. For dinner the next night, I made pumpkin pancakes. I got this pumpkin pancake mix from Trader Joe's and I've been wanting to try it. I've heard good things about it. I'm just cooking these according to the package instructions. So in this measuring cup here, I've got some butter that I melted. I'm going to add in my milk, add in my egg, and then I'm going to whisk that together until it's well combined. I'm going to set that to the side, and then in this mixing bowl, I'm going to add in my pancake mix. I'm going to add the wet ingredients to the dry. Stir that until it's just combined. You don't want to overmix this. And this is a pretty thick batter, I will say. So once that's combined, I'm going to make my pancakes. I've got my griddle on about 300, 325. I have some leftover bacon from breakfast one morning that I'm just crisping up on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, I'm going to spray a little bit of the nonstick cooking spray, and then using a 1/4 cup measure, I'm just going to add the pancake batter to the griddle, cook it until the bubbles form, and then flip them over, cook them until they're done, and then I'll remove them to a separate plate. While those last two pancakes are finishing up, I'm going to fry my husband up a couple eggs. I've sprayed the right side of the griddle with some cooking spray. I'm just going to crack a couple eggs on there, season them with some salt and pepper, and then once they are about halfway done cooking, I'm going to flip them over. My husband does like his yolk runny, so I'll flip them over, cook them until they're done, and then that's it. Our breakfast will be ready. Here's everything finished up. We have the eggs, the bacon, the pancakes, and then to go along with the pancakes, I set out some butter and maple syrup. Here are the plates. This was really yummy. We enjoyed this. I can say though that if you're not a big fan of pumpkin spice, like specifically nutmeg, you may not enjoy this mix. You could definitely taste the nutmeg there. But like I said, we really enjoyed it, so I would recommend this mix. But just wanted to throw that out there again. If you're not a big fan of pumpkin spice, nutmeg, then you probably won't like this because it was pretty strong. But that was our dinner this day. For dinner the next night, I made French bread pizza. I haven't made these in forever, but I saw this on Jess and the Boys. I'll have her channel linked in the description box below, and it just looked really good. And I was like, man, I haven't had that in forever. So that's what I did for dinner this night. Let me show you how I made it. I'm first going to cut my French bread. I got this at Publix, but you can get it at Walmart or your local grocery store. I'm cutting this into quarters because it's just my husband and I, and we weren't super hungry this night. Once I have a quarter of the loaf, I'm going to slice it in half horizontally so that I have two equal-ish halves. I'm then going to add my sauce, my toppings. Now, I'm cooking this in the air fryer tonight just to make it super quick so that I don't have to wait the 15 minutes or so for the oven to heat up, but you could totally make this in the oven. Now, as far as the sauce and the cheese and the toppings go, use whatever you've got on hand and whatever you and your family like. Tonight, I'm using some just regular pizza sauce, shredded mozzarella cheese, pepperoni, and some bacon crumbles. You could also do buffalo sauce, barbecue sauce, Alfredo, ranch, chicken, all different kinds of toppings. And with the French bread pizza, a lot of times we'll do different kinds of pizza with the same loaf of bread, if that makes sense. So if you have family members who are particular about, what they like on their pizza, this is a great way to kind of make everyone happy in a very budget-friendly way. Those French breads are like maybe $1, $1.50 at the grocery store. So here's the finished pizza. Here is the finished plate. I just served up a side salad with the pizza. This was, like I said, super quick and easy dinner. It honestly didn't even take me 15 minutes to put this together. So this is something great to keep in mind on a really busy night or a night that you don't feel like cooking, and it's super budget friendly. For dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe for a balsamic marinated flank steak. I'd gotten a flank steak on markdown at Food Lion, and I wanted to find a new way to use it. And I had some balsamic vinegar on hand, so I found this recipe and thought this would be a good way to use up the flank steak. Here are the ingredients that I used. You'll need some balsamic vinegar, Worcestershire sauce, garlic, salt, pepper, and brown sugar. I just mixed that together. I'll include the link to the recipe in the description box below. I just mixed that together, added it to a Ziploc bag with my flank steak, and marinated it overnight. To go along with the steak, I'm making some roasted potatoes. I have this bag of baby reds. I'm going to cut these into quarters and add them to this bowl. I'm going to cook these in the air fryer tonight, but you could totally do these in the oven. I'm adding a little bit of oil. And as far as seasonings go, just use whatever you and your family like. Tonight, I'm using some salt, pepper, garlic powder, onion powder, and paprika. I'm going to stir the potatoes together, and then I'll place them into my air fryer. I cook these at 400 degrees. Now, a quick note about this steak. About an hour before I wanted to start cooking it, I did remove it from the refrigerator so that it could start to come to room temperature. For my other side, I'm going to saute up some zucchini. Here I have a zucchini. This was pretty large, so I only ended up using one. I've washed it really well. I trimmed off the edges and I sliced them into like coin shapes, and then I sliced those coin shapes into halves so they made like little half moons. While I was in my refrigerator getting my zucchini, I saw this about half of an onion and this about half a package of mushrooms that needed to be used up. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up the onion, and I'll saute the zucchini, onions, and mushrooms together. I've got a little bit of oil in my cast iron skillet. I'm going to add in my onions, turn this on about medium heat, and allow the onions to cook for about 3 to 5 minutes before I add everything else. You can add everything at once if you'd like, but we like our onions cooked down a little bit more instead of being a little crunchy. Once the onions had cooked down a little bit, I'm going to add in the mushrooms, the zucchini, and again with the seasonings, just like the potatoes, add whatever seasonings you like. I'm adding some salt, pepper, and garlic powder. I'm going to give this a little stir, and then I just cook this for about 5 to 10 minutes until all of the vegetables were tender. For the potatoes, after about 10 minutes, I gave them a little shake and cooked them for another 8 to 10 minutes, and then that was it. The potatoes were done. For the steak, I cooked it on my Cuisinart griddler. I love this thing. It comes in so handy. I cooked it until it was about medium temperature. Just cook your steak however you like it. Now, the outside did look a little charred or a little burnt, but that's because of the sugar in the marinade, but it was delicious. Here are the finished potatoes. Here are the finished vegetables, and then here are the plates. So I just allowed the steak to rest. I sliced it up. We have the potatoes and the vegetables. This was a really yummy dinner. For the last dinner in this week's video, I made $1 Million spaghetti. I'm pretty sure I've shared this before on my channel. It's been a while, but I wanted to share it again because we like this recipe. My husband and I aren't super big fans of spaghetti. We kind of have to be in the mood for it, but we both really enjoy this recipe. And it's kind of a cross between lasagna and spaghetti. So it's from the Plain Chicken. I'll have it linked in the description box below. I highly recommend you all give this a try. Let me show you how I made it. I've got the oven preheated to 375 degrees. In this mixing bowl, I'm going to add in my softened cream cheese. I'm using some whipped cream cheese today because that's what I have on hand. I'm going to then add in the sour cream, then the cottage cheese. And if you've watched my videos before, you know I hate cottage cheese. I just can't do the texture, but I don't mind it and stuff like this. You really can't taste it. So once I've added the cottage cheese, I'm going to add in the parsley, the garlic powder, salt and pepper, and I'm going to stir that until it's well combined and then set that to the side. Quick note, because it's just the two of us, I did half this recipe, but it still made plenty for us for dinner and we had leftovers. I've sprayed my casserole dish with some nonstick cooking spray. In this colander, I have some spaghetti noodles that I cooked according to the package instructions. I've drained them really well. I'm adding half of the noodles to the casserole dish and spreading them out into a layer. Then I'm going to add my cheese mixture and spread that out over the noodles. Next, I'm going to add the remaining spaghetti noodles to the top of the cheese mixture and spread that out. And then in this bowl here, I have about a half a pound of ground beef that I'd already browned. It was in my freezer. I just took it out and thawed it, and I added it to some jarred spaghetti sauce. I'm going to spread that out over the spaghetti noodles. Then finally, I'm going to add a layer of shredded mozzarella cheese, and that's it. This is going to go into the preheated oven, and I baked it for about 45 minutes. Once it comes out of the oven, it's just like a lasagna. You definitely want to allow it to cool. Otherwise, it's like almost impossible to serve up. So definitely give yourself like 10 to 15 minutes to allow it to cool. Here's the finished pasta bake. I just sprinkled a little bit of parsley over top, and then I had a couple slices of frozen garlic bread that I just baked up in the oven while the pasta was resting. Here's the finished plate. Like I said, I highly recommend you all give this a try. It's really yummy. We enjoy this, and it makes great leftovers. That's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you like this video, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.